Dadhood. Modern Dadhood Podcast.
Hello there, friends. Happy whatever day it is when you're listening to this episode. Welcome to Modern Dadhood. It's Mark here, and I am a dad to twin boys who are currently a wild and, I'm going to go with rambunctious 7 years old. I feel tired all the time. This show is an ongoing conversation about the joys, challenges, and general insanity of being a dad in this moment. And you can find Modern Dadhood wherever you listen to podcasts. And wherever you do listen, please take maybe 15 or 16 seconds to give us a rating or a review. And if that's not your thing, that's fine. Maybe you could just tell a friend. That helps us so much to get this show into new ears. You can find everything about this show and our back catalog of episodes at moderndadhood.com. Speaking of back catalog, today I'm bringing you a rewind episode, which is where we reach back into the archives and pull out an episode that we enjoyed and think that perhaps you might enjoy as well. Today, I have plucked episode 56, which is an interview with Tyghe Trimble, who at the time was editor-in-chief at Fatherly. He and some of his colleagues had just released a book called Fatherhood, a comprehensive guide to birth, budgeting, finding flow, and becoming a happy parent. And that book was a guide for a lot of our conversation, which was a pretty rich conversation. We talked about things like what men today get prepared for when we're becoming dads, maybe for the first time, and about the things that we don't often prepare ourselves for, getting into things like the challenges that we face with our partners, particularly around things like communication, which is something that I'll admit that even in the 4 years since this episode came out, I haven't really gotten much better at. And we even sort of organically get into a little bit of why modern dadhood exists in the first place. It was a great discussion. If this is your first time hearing this interview, I'm excited for you to hear it. And if this is your second time through, well, thanks. And I know you're going to hear some great reminders. Friends, please enjoy this episode of Modern Dadhood.
Today's guest is Tyghe Trimble, editor-in-chief at Fatherly, whose team collaborated on a new book titled Fatherhood, a comprehensive guide to birth, budgeting, finding flow, and becoming a happy parent. So I want to welcome you to the conversation, Tyghe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Anyone listening to Modern Dadhood is going to know what Fatherly is, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about what the editor-in-chief does, and then maybe a bit about who you are outside of work and your family.
I'll start with who I am. My name's Tyghe Trimble. I live in Brooklyn with two kids. I have a recent 4-year-old and a recent 10-year-old who is getting vaccinated tomorrow. So yes. Very exciting there. And yeah, as the editor-in-chief, I oversee our editors who, oversee story assignments. I oversee some special projects we have. Podcasts, for example, we did a Finding Fred series we're working on as a Finding Raffi. Also, things like this exciting project, our book. I get to conceive of it and right now, try to get it in as many hands of everyone as we can.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to get an advanced copy, and the book is great. I wanted to start off by asking about the second chapter, which is called 9 Months, 6 Conversations. And it's centered around getting on the same page with your partner and focusing on keeping the lines of communication open about your values. Communication is one of those things that, like, before you have kids, you might not consider that it's a thing that can become challenging.
Communication is hard. Right. Anything that helps me communicate better with my partner. I mean, I feel like this past 2 years, that's been by far the hardest thing is just being able to clearly communicate the chaos inside of me and my perception and what I think we should be doing when I have no idea.
So the book has 6 conversations that honestly, like, I think they're great to have before you have kids. These are great conversations to have before you get married or before you live together. You know, I think that developing a set of values that you can align on and agree upon that will guide your decision making as a family, that's just so powerful, and it's so clarifying.
All of these things, like when you pick up What to Expect, which is a great book. And when you pick up these, I have them on my table, all these manuals about sleep training and stuff, like you're not going to hold on to that for very long. But like what we were trying to do here, and I honestly came back and was just like, oh, I'm very, very happy that we did this in this chapter, was just communication about values with your partner that actually can go throughout your life. Our parenting editor, Patrick Coleman, I think he's been on the show before, he really, like, I didn't entirely believe him that oh yeah, these conversations are actually conversations you'll pretty much have until the day you die. Like, this is that.
Yeah, I certainly wish that I had something like this in the period of time leading up to us having kids. My wife and I mean, I don't know how unique this is, but we were married for almost 13 years before we had kids. So we certainly were in a routine with one another. And we knew that was going to change. And maybe it was just the books that we had, or, you know, the sort of little anecdotes that you get from the people around you. But we started focus on, like I said, on these things that they came and went. But the difficulty with communication, that is here, and it's going to stay, you know, and we're going to have to keep working at it. Especially, you know, these questions are straight and to the point, and they're quick, and it's in bulleted form. It's in list form. I mean, it's a handy thing to have beyond it being like a great set of really thought-provoking questions to spark conversation. But yeah, man, I wish I had this.
We are an expert-driven publication. And so these questions come from Professor John Dufresne. Like they're out of the spirit of him. We actually point out that you can't really turn what he does into questions, but he's at University of Nebraska, I believe. And I think it's 24,000 families and counting that he's surveyed and followed and kind of digested what their answers are. And I do think we hear so many opinions in parenting, like just parenting publications and first person stuff and all that. And I think that was really one of like really important points to us, was we're not giving you a point of view. You know, we're giving you kind of a template to look at yourself as well. And I think with John Dufresne really just pushed us in that direction with these questions. And it's like, if American families are going to look at themselves, what should they be asking themselves? I
mean, it's interesting, you know, that these questions are able to be boiled down like that. But I think the whole book, too, just kind of has this great structure to it. There's a mixture of there's like lessons, and there's anecdotes, and there's some fun illustrations like you mentioned, and bulleted lists, and it's easy to pick up and go through. It's not a daunting thing to go through. It also seems like it's, and this is kind of how I've been reading it the last couple of days. It's like you pick it up, you read a little bit, you can put it down, and then an hour later you can come right back to it. I mean, was that intentional to create a book that's used that way? I mean, what was the thought behind the structure of it?
I think because we're a digital publisher for parents, we actually look at what people read. We actually look at the questions that parents ask through search engine optimization, all that kind of stuff. And we see which ones we're answering well, according to algorithms, but also according to people coming back, and also comments in our newsletters, and also comments in our social. There's just a couple things that I think learnings that you bring up with. And this book is an absolute reflection on that. We're allowed to breathe a little bit. But we also recognize a couple of things about parents, or expecting parents, or just people. And that's that we're all very busy. And when we look at parenthood and when we look at having children, it's overwhelming as can be. And that doesn't help you pay more attention.
Yeah.
I think that makes you want to scan and find the answers as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And then you have to, I mean, it's a really hard task to be in parenting. I haven't always been in parenting media. And I can tell you it's much easier doing like men's lifestyle publication, telling people how to ski. They'll read that. But if you can grab somebody and bring them into it, and then you bury the payoff in there a little bit with great writing, with anecdotes, with interesting people and stories and experts, that is how our readers read. And so that's why you see a lot of short form content on our site.
If we can, I'd love to dive into a little bit about this chapter, The Case for a Cigar, chapter 5 in the book, because it really dives into something that I think is a real problem that I feel like I kind of have in my life and know some people who have a similar struggle, which is with loneliness, which can be a sort of big, scary word for us dads. The chapter is great because it sort of frames the whole topic around this ritual, this sort of old fashioned ritual of, everybody can kind of picture the man pacing back and forth in the waiting room. And, he's got the cigars and he's ready to pass them out when he receives word from the doctor. And then, part of that is then actually sitting down and smoking the cigar. And there's a little bit of, maybe there's other dads there. There's this camaraderie aspect to it. Right. And of course, it does conjure an old fashioned image. We don't really, I think, see that much anymore. And it's much more likely that we're going to be in the delivery room. We're going to be right there when things are happening. And so on one hand, we've kind of gained this amazing thing because we're right there. And Adam was before Ty, you hopped on, Adam was telling me a little bit about his experience actually being the one to catch the children as they come out, which is just incredible.
Kudos.
Yeah, right.
It was amazing. Yeah, mind blowing, really. Yeah.
Amazing.
And he's terrible at sports. So I don't know how
I suck. Yeah.
I don't know how he managed to get that job
with lots of nurses.
That's right.
Yeah. All these other hands kind of all around. So on one hand, we gain something that's just indescribable. But then on the other hand, what have we kind of lost from that old fashioned cigar ritual thing that used to be there?
That was like really well set up. Thank you for that. This whole Mad Men style, Mad Men's in my head on this one, for sure, on that imagery. It's toxic as hell. I just want to like put that at like we lost misogyny, so that was good.
That's a good thing.
That's true.
But still, like I think the stat is, or there was one stat that was actually interesting. It's November. It was from a giant Movember survey that we cited. That was really well done. Movember does some great stuff. It was 1 in 5 men stopped meeting friends in the first 12 months of having a kid.
So for the first 12 months that they are new fathers, that is not to say that after that 12 months, their social life doesn't return in some capacity.
That's right. I mean, it can come back. However, if you look at men statistically, they have less friends,
right? Less
friends than women. They have, there is an extremely high rate of depression, mental illness among men. Many, many experts have called it a crisis. And postpartum depression for men is just not talked about. And it absolutely happens. The solution is not a stork club. It's not bringing misogyny back. And I think we laugh, but I do think there is kind of a bad strain in America today of that's the answer. But I think the answer is looking closely at, as Robert Putnam does and other experts do, at what we could have and what we have lost and what we replace the cigar with while catching our kids, because that's amazing. Catch your kids, do it.
I think to a certain degree, I think this is why modern dadhood exists, because Adam and I both, just on a personal level, we're looking for that, and we were using fatherhood as that avenue to sort of get some of that camaraderie and some of that communication going again.
it's such a good avenue for that too. And I think it's because if you think about like the masculinity, aspirational masculinity leading up to that point, the lone gunman, John Wayne, like think of any of a macho superhero. They go off on their own and the world is on their shoulders. And it's so at odds with parenting. It's comical. And I think in order to redefine that, this is the time you're expecting. This is the time. This is the time for you to confront it. I think for, someone like me, it's like okay, the things I didn't do. Okay, it's 4. My youngest is 4 now. He interrupts me most of the time, but I have some headspace and I can start to really recognize the things that were previous me and are incompatible with dad me.
One other theme that I wanted to bring up that that caught my eye in the book, it's kind of funny, it's kind of interesting, is this idea of roughhousing and how there are so many amazing benefits to playing rough with your kids. When I was a kid, roughhousing and wrestling with my buddies, we'd get scolded by our parents for making too much noise, and they certainly weren't going to join in with us. But you and the editors of Fatherly, describe how important and how enjoyable it is to do that, and how there are so many benefits to doing it. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm prejudiced here because I love roughhousing so much. It is one of, it's probably chicken and egg. My 10-year-old daughter is vicious. She's so vicious. So we talk about boundaries and things in here, but like, I'm the one who's like, time out. Because she's like,
Dad needs a break.
And my 4-year-old is like kind of he likes being flipped over mostly and just like moving around, but he's getting vicious too. It was funny. I was thinking about this kind of recently because they're both like, I think yesterday, hissing at me. They're playing cats, but they were like all in. And I just remembered back, and I like thought about, we've covered this for a while because it's such an interesting topic, but what the experts, like, they say that this is just a sign that the more vicious they are, it's the safer they feel. But they know that this is like an act of love and trust. It's like a trust exercise. That I always thought, and then as we explored into it a little more, there's like, I think the much, much more interesting idea here. And we actually gave rules of roughhousing, and I think it's really, really important. But you're teaching your kid boundaries. You're teaching your kid self-control, which is great. And when else do they get flipped, right? And know that like where their body is in space. Like, I'm not saying you're going to make a gymnast out of your roughhousing child, but they know the limits and the line between fun and discomfort. And they know they're learning where that is with somebody that they trust and is there for them. And the biggest one for me, the one that I really changed the way I roughhouse, is consent. When you roughhouse with a child, you are teaching them, you're showing them what consent means, because you're doing something that's dangerous and fun, and you're a person they trust immensely.
Even long before having read this book, when I roughhouse with my daughters, I might throw them onto the bed, or we're wrestling, or we're pillow fighting, or whatever. If I get them into a position where like I'm, we're tickling or whatever, like I kind of pin them down. Long before I ever read this, as soon as I heard stop, that was it. Subconsciously, not even really like thinking about it, my brain was saying, if they understand that when they express that something is uncomfortable and it stops later in life, right? The hope is that if they say stop and something doesn't stop, they're going to know that it's a problem, rather than questioning, is this a problem, or am I doing something wrong? And I think that that's one of the really powerful things about that sort of setting limits.
And then the last one, which was actually what the experts all told us, and we had not thought about, was learning to wind down is really, really, really important. Because it's really easy, and anyone who's been in sports and like knows this, it's really easy to ramp up and you definitely need to transition out of it. And that's, yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good lesson as well.
I was just going to say, to me, there's certainly some like misconceptions around the idea of roughhousing that we kind of need to get past. You know, the fact that it's only for dads, or that it's only for dads and their sons. That it absolutely can and should be something with dads and their daughters, and the idea that it's purely a violent thing. You know, and so getting a better understanding, or maybe widening your understanding, that roughhousing doesn't mean you're throwing down in the backyard, but it could be something like a game of tag or chasing each other around the kitchen island or something like that. But I never could understand it on a deeper level, and that's kind of what I love about this chapter in particular.
It's such an interesting concept, and like, just anecdotally, my dad was a rugby player, and absolutely the one thing I remember that was one of the most positive things about my childhood was our roughhousing. And I became a gymnast, a runner, a soccer. I was very much an athlete, and I don't totally have an athletic figure, but I feel like I'm connecting that line. I always have. I was like, I mean, he was an athlete too, but we played, and I had like this sense of, I knew how to fall. You know, like, you kind of learn this tuck a shoulder type fall. And I feel like I learned that very young. And it's important. I mean, it's your body. You get to learn how to use it. Climb a tree, kids.
To check out the book, to read some excerpts from the book, you can go to fatherhood.fatherly.com, and you can pick up a copy today at your favorite local bookstore or online at IndieBound or Amazon, wherever you purchase your books online. Also, please stick around to the end of the episode to hear about how you could get your hands on a free copy of Fatherhood. Tyghe Trimble, we want to thank you so much for making time to chat with us. This was an awesome conversation, and we are so thrilled for you and your team at Fatherly for putting out such a fantastic book.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
You know what we haven't done with one another in some time?
The old...
No, not that. We have not confessed anything to one another in some time.
You got some stuff to get off your chest there, Mark?
Yeah. You mind if I go in first?
Confess.
I have no problem whatsoever with opening a brand new bag of Pepperidge Farm goldfish and eating the entire thing without ever even offering a single solitary fish to anyone else in the family. Confessions.
Once or twice a week, I use the kids' toothpaste because bubblegum tastes better than Sensodyne.
Confessions. On hard days, when I've had a rough day at work, when I'm tired and my back is sore and things just aren't going right, I think to myself, what is the point of all of this? And then I look at my children's beautiful, perfect faces and I think, what is the point in all of this? Confessions. Oh man, I really got you.
I have sung Jules, You Were Meant for Me to my daughter at bedtime more times than I have ever sung any other song in my life.
Confession. And I was meant for you. I spend an absurd amount of time contemplating what cartoon dad I'm most like. I think it's Stu Pickles. Confessions.
Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar? I did. I stole them. Confessions.
I mean, I feel better.
Man, you had a dark one in there.
That's what this is for, right?
Confessing the really dark stuff. Yeah, I guess it is.
I can't hold that stuff in. Hey, listener, are you or someone you know just about to become a dad? Or maybe you're a dude who just needs a little extra help on their journey. Well, the kind folks over at Fatherly gave us an extra copy of their new book, Fatherhood, a comprehensive guide to birth, budgeting, finding flow, and becoming a happy parent. And we want to give it to you. So just write in to hey@moderndadhood.com with your name and address, and we'll pick someone at random to send the book to. Bonus points if you promise to share a picture of the book on Facebook or Instagram, tagging Modern Dadhood once you get it. Thanks. Oh, and good luck. You can find us at moderndadhood.com, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you listen. And if you're looking for that subscribe button somewhere, go ahead and click it. And then if you want, leave us a rating and a review. You know what else we would love? Next time you're talking to a friend, tell them about the show.
You can follow Modern Dadhood on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. We would love it if, coming into the holiday season, if you bought a Modern Dadhood t-shirt or dad hoodie for someone you care about. You can buy those at moderndadhood.com.
Buy a dad hoodie for yourself. You can care about yourself.
Holiday season 2021. The theme is you do you. Take care of yourself this holiday season. And if for you, that means buying a dad hoodie to feel comfortable and look good in,
then do it.
And we would also invite you to email us anytime at HEY@moderndadhood.com.
Thank you to Casper Baby Pants and Spencer Albee for the music on Modern Dadhood, to Pete Morse at Red Vault Audio for mixing our show, and thank you to Tyghe Trimble for joining us on Modern Dadhood today.
Last and certainly not least, thank you for listening.